Hey everybody, Paul Turner here from thediscipleproject.net, here with another video for you today. And before I get into today's video, which is all about what if I have my teenagers in my youth group, oh my, what do I do? Well, before we get into that, let me just share with you a couple things. Number one, I'm going to be on the road quite a bit now that I am no longer a full-time youth pastor in a church. I am traveling down to Vero Beach, Florida tomorrow, in fact, and actually I'll be coming to you from the Wednesday at 1 on the road. So I got to find a good internet connection to be with you. So be with me 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, and catch up with me, and we'll talk about some things. Get your questions ready, okay? Also, don't forget, I have a couple of resources that you might be interested in. Recently, my newest book here is The Disciple Project, which breaks down my thoughts and ideas from Scripture as to what a disciple is, and are we really making disciples in youth ministry? Also, if you're looking for program elements, this gives you some program elements that you may be interested in that involve actually not having a meeting. Because meetings don't make disciples, movements make disciples. So we start a movement instead of just having a meeting. So if you're interested in this, you can go to gumroad.com/youthmenresources. It'll be down in the link below. Also, if you're wondering if you're getting ready for the fall, good time to pick up my first book, which is Prepare for Impact, which is the 12 keys to unlocking you and your youth ministry. It is all about the planning process and the value and the importance of that. So if you want to grab that, there'll be links down in the description below. Now, let's talk about the question of having your kids. Now, I just had my last Sunday this past Sunday. And what a great time. It was an awesome, awesome time. In fact, let me just show you real quick some of the things that they gave me. Number one, they gave me a tremendous plaque. Awesome. Thank you, Pleasant Grove Assembly. You guys are awesome. It says, Paul and Kim Turner, for 8 years of faithful and dedicated service and exemplary leadership. That means a lot to me for the leadership part there, that they recognized the leadership part of that. A lot of times as youth workers, we're recognized for loving kids and so forth and so on, but exemplary leadership. Now, the other thing they gave me was this here, which is a photo album, and it just simply says, family is being surrounded by love and home is being surrounded by family, and they put a bunch of pictures in there, as you can see, and they are awesome. So I want to thank Pleasant Grove Assembly and all our students. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for 8 years. It was tremendous. And anyway, so while I was up there, receiving these things. I had my kids up there, minus my daughter, who's in Nashville, and so my kids were up there, and I almost forgot to tell them. I was thanking the family and thank my wife, of course, things like that. But I also wanted to thank my kids, and I said, guys, I want to thank you for sharing your dad with a bunch of teenagers over the past 30 years. Because I did. I maybe shared too much time, right? It took me away from various things, and I thank them for that. And I guess in this regard, if you have teenagers in your youth ministry, really just love on them more than you've ever done before, because that time does go by very fast, and they need to understand that they are valued, that they are important, that they are the priority, that you are their chief disciple maker, that you are interested in them more than you're interested in all the other things. Sometimes as a youth pastor, sometimes we get our own kids are like, whatever, and these other kids, want our attention so bad, it kind of feeds our ego a little bit. And so I want to encourage you to really dial into your kids, even though you may be getting your props and these kids are telling you how you're amazing you are and all that kind of stuff. Let me tell you, what your kids say about you matters more than anything else. Let me give you a few tips, though, at least as far as structure and strategy maybe of having your kids in the program itself. Number one, give them the same amount of room to grow and fail as anybody else. My kids are no special in that regard as far as their own Christian faith. I have to let them grow and in their faith as time allows. I mean, there's nothing supernatural about them in the sense of being my kids. So I have to let them grow at the pace that God is growing them. And sometimes we can get frustrated because we see other kids that we're investing in and they're skyrocketing. Whereas we see our own kids and we're saying, man, I'm your dad. And you're like, unimpressed or just not growing as fast. And so give them the amount of, grace that they need, was number two. Give them a tremendous amount of grace. Give them even more grace than you give other kids, because they're your kids and they're watching you get up there every week and talk or lead or do trips or those things. And they're, watching your life, and I just say, give them the grace that they need, and say, look, why don't you, instead of, because I talk from my own example where I'm, trying to rally my own kids to be excited about an event or about a thing or whatever, and they're not. Well, if another kid did that, I'd pass it off and go, well, it's okay, and maybe a little bit, I'd give them a little bit of a hard time. But sometimes we give our own kids a hard time, and I don't know if that's fair. I think we have to give our kids the same amount of grace that we give other kids. The third thing is this, is guard their heart till they can do it themselves. I defend my kids to the point where, listen, my kids are off limits. You don't get to say anything to my kids. You don't get to, listen, I work here, they don't work here. These are my kids. So if you have an issue or a problem with them, that comes directly through me. And I think you have to, as a youth worker, you have to be able to step up for your kids, because your kids can't step up for themselves. So you say, look, if a church or congregation doesn't understand those boundaries, make it clear that these are the boundaries. And once you do that, I think people will get the picture. And if not, well, we just deal with it from there, right? So yes, guard their hearts. Help guard their, give them the bubble they need to grow up in this thing called ministry until they can guard their hearts for themselves, right? Because there's wounds, there's hurts. They're going to watch you get hurt at times. They're going to see you bring home problems, things like that. But be generous with grace. Be generous with them, and just say, look, guys, you're my priority. No matter what's happening here at work, no matter what's happening here at this level, you guys are my priority. And let me tell you something. I will fight for you, and they need to know that. They need to know that you're going to go to bat for them, right? The last thing is this: let them lead to the extent that they want to lead, because a lot of times, we think we have to push our own kids up there because we're leaders, that our kids are naturally born leaders too, and that's not necessarily true. So I would encourage you to say, look, allow the room and the space they need to grow into their own leadership style. If they're a behind-the-scene person, let them be a great behind-the-scene person. Set them up for success. If they're good at communication or small groups or whatever they are good in, give them the opportunity to lead in that sense, and give them the same sense of value that you give other kids when you put them in those positions, when you put them in those places, and watch them grow and flourish in those things, and give them high praise. Give them, even more so high praise than you give other kids, and say, look, guys, I want to thank you guys. You guys are here by virtue that you're my kids in the group. You didn't volunteer necessarily to come, maybe, which, by the way, that's a whole other thing, but I have given my kids the opportunity to go visit other youth groups because they just need to see what else is out there. They need to, if they have a different group of friends, I let them make that decision. I let them make that choice. I don't feel the burden necessarily to say, well, if your own kids don't come. My own kids are my own kids. I let them make decisions as I need to let them make decisions as they grow older. When they're 16, 17 years old, I let them make some of those decisions because they have friends other places. And you know what? Sometimes when they're under the leadership of another youth pastor, they can grow equally or as just as effectively. They might need the change. They might need that different voice in their life. So choose wisely, right? And that's it, guys. That's my advice. And if you have kids in the ministry, if you have teenagers entering into your youth ministry, that's just some thoughts and ideas I have. I hope that you guys enjoyed those. If you have some other ideas, leave me in some comments below. Do you have teenagers in your group? How you dealing with it? How's it working out for you? Feel free to ask questions. If you're brand spanking new to the channel, thank you guys so much for just being a part and hanging out, watching the video, and taking a chance on a crazy guy like me getting in here talking about youth ministry. I would love for you to be a part of the community, so go ahead and hit the subscribe button at the end of this video, or go ahead and click the subscribe down below there. Also, click the little bell down there. That will notify you when I post videos. So if you're a regular, by the way, thank you so much for being a part. Appreciate you guys being here. Be in prayer for me as I go to camp and preach at camp for a couple of weeks and start booking dates and things like that. If you're interested in having me into your youth ministry to work with your staff or to talk to your kids or to camp retreat, anything like that, go ahead and leave me some comments down below for that as well. Also, you may notice Studio is happening right now, and we're going to put some of the things back in here dress it up a little bit, but I thought solid background, no junk in the background, all that kind of stuff. Just for you guys. We're going to dress it up a little bit. So, but that's it for today, guys. Appreciate you guys hanging out, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow, Wednesday at 1. Talk to you later. Bye.